It is well past time we took a fresh look at road travel in the UK and asked some basic questions about cost and value. Currently we spend in the order of £300 billion a year, predominantly to move people from place to place. For context, the annual cost of the health service is about £180 billion. A large chunk of the cost is money for vehicles and parts that flows out of the country, negatively impacting trade balance. So, is the money we spend on road transport well spent? For many of us, rush hour is a painful experience with average commute times of over an hour, average journey speeds of less than 20 miles per hour, and a high level of journey time variability. It can be a challenge to find suitable parking, and costs are sometimes extortionate. If we are unfortunate enough to use public transport, the situation is even worse. Buses are infrequent, slow, and for the majority only go approximately where we wish to travel. Public transport is second class, mildly unpleasant, and probably a virus transmission vector. Whilst there have been many improvements in vehicle and road safety over the years, the Achilles heel is always going to be human behavior. There are far too many deaths and injuries caused by accidents. The byproducts of combustion from petrol and diesel engines are literally killing thousands of people each year, making tens of thousands sick, and constitute over a quarter of the total UK CO2 emissions. In summary, the vast amount of money spent each year on road travel fails to deliver what might be considered a reasonable set of objectives. Surely, given the level of failure, the amount of people impacted, and our apparent technical prowess, we must have the capabilities as a society to improve the situation. Everyone by now has seen or heard about autonomous vehicles. Many new cars now come with some level of driver assist, and there are ongoing trials underway to test more advanced autonomous technology in the real world. However, whilst full automation will undoubtedly come with benefits, as we will discover, there are inherent limits to these. A new Level 6 is proposed that goes beyond individual vehicle control and considers all vehicles and the road configuration as part of an overall system, in which there is no human driving possible. The geofenced area shown in red in the example would be reserved for centrally controlled vehicles only and allow for traffic rules to be flexible in real time as demand changes. That requires accurate ongoing vehicle positioning, i.e. beyond comprehensive and consistent human capabilities. A larger area outside of the central control region would form the boundaries of operation of a shared public transport vehicle fleet. Each junction in the central control zone can be considered like a gear wheel whose speed regulates the flow of traffic and ensures there can be no collisions. Vehicles reach junction entry points in alternating pairs at set time intervals. They then follow paths that are designed to allow both to cross safely without stopping. In this way, traffic can flow in all directions unimpeded, and there is no requirement for traffic lights or stopping at intersections. Traffic today is required to stop at intersections for both pedestrians and other traffic. Typically, this might mean traffic only flows for 1/3 of the time. Level 6 dispenses with the requirement for traffic lights and allows traffic to flow for 2/3 of the time in the same junction. Today, in the event of roadworks or other lane blockages, traffic can quickly become bottlenecked. With central control, traffic is coordinated to mitigate the impact. Most urban journeys today consist of some combination of normal driving and delays caused by other road users, traffic signals, and flow restrictions. There is also usually a need to park the vehicle and often some contingency to ensure a given final destination arrival time. Level 6 system automation eliminates all unnecessary delays and reduces average commute times by an estimated 45%. By replacing buses with a local fleet of mainly single occupancy, long design life vehicles, public transport can be both low cost and significantly better than that currently on offer. It is hoped in this way to encourage more people to switch away from car ownership. Single occupancy vehicles provide the potential for a higher density of vehicle flow during peak times. Today, our road systems respond to traffic demand in a non-linear way. Initially, traffic flows freely, but as more vehicles enter the system, the output begins to decline. At a certain point, gridlock occurs. Even with large-scale adoption of fully driverless vehicles, the response, whilst better, would be similar in shape. Level 6 traffic control system behaves somewhat differently. Output increases linearly with demand until a plateau point is reached. Wide adoption of single-occupancy fleet vehicles further increases overall system capacity. Trying to fix transport and pollution issues by restricting use is always going to generate annoyance and pushback. Partially solving one problem whilst simultaneously creating others is a less than perfect solution. Full adoption of Level 5 autonomous vehicles is expected to improve some of the issues associated with personal transport in the UK today. It will speed up journey time to some extent, It will be significantly safer and have some positive impact on carbon emissions, assuming electric or hydrogen power. However, for those unable to afford what are likely to become more, not less expensive vehicles, public transport will still be buses. A form of ongoing unpleasantness, mass discrimination and inefficiency. Level 6 automation, i.e. system control combined with a locally managed fleet of shared vehicles, has the potential to fix all of the issues we currently suffer with urban road transport today. It has the added benefit of increasing our ability to have more face-to-face contact and therefore do more business. However, it would not be possible or sensible to wholesale change all of our towns and cities to become level 6 zones simultaneously, whatever the size of the rewards. It is practical and affordable to develop the necessary control technology, infrastructure and vehicles to undertake a couple of city pilots, probably in less than 10 years. The pilots will require a number of things to be developed in parallel in order for the system to function. There is power distribution and charging infrastructure to build. A quick calculation of available power generation and usage today suggests that full-scale fleet charging, if done outside of peak use times, could be accommodated with no additional capacity required. That will not be the case if the vast majority of vehicles continue to look like they do today and are charged in an uncontrolled way as they are today. The intention to create a fleet of vehicles, designed with standard interchangeable batteries, would provide a much-needed demand signal to potential UK battery investors. There will also be multiple support functions to set up and operate and a relatively complex control system to design and run. A fleet of vehicles will be required to replace buses and suitable interface developed so users can interact with the system to book journeys. For any pilot, it is going to be essential that all vehicles can be accommodated, so it is useful to spend some time considering road usage needs and specifically how these might be met. Firstly, let's take a look at public transport. What people need is point-to-point travel from their current location directly to a new location. The only reason people choose to use a bus is because they have no affordable or logistical options to use a car. DVLA survey data shows the vast majority of commutes are single occupancy, which makes complete sense given that most people don't live with someone who works or studies in the same place as they do. However, does it make any sense that the average motorist moves about 1 ton of superfluous steel and plastic, over 4,000 miles each year, completely unnecessarily and at obvious high cost and carbon impact? Most cars are designed to carry multiple people and luggage several hundred miles. Most journeys are only a few miles and only one person is involved. Why not design public transport to meet the needs of the people that are using it and at the same time provide an incentive to switch away from higher carbon emitting conventional vehicle usage? A fleet of 1 and 2 person vehicles will provide the vast majority of public transport needs. Smaller vehicles cost less money to build and run, require less energy to use and have a lower carbon footprint. There are absolutely no reasons why the vehicles cannot be designed with a 50 or even 100-year lifespan. This is not done presently for cars or many other products because manufacturers are required to show growth and want you to keep on buying their products. This is what fuels the extraordinarily high cost of personal road transport. Although car life has slightly improved in the last decade, this has been for reasons more to do with vehicle supply than fundamental engineering change. There are still way too many vehicles being scrapped because they are uneconomic to keep road legal. They have been designed this way. For those living within the central control zone that do not wish to part with their non-level 6 compliant personal vehicles, automated skids will also need to be developed. The requirement for this service will probably always remain but diminish over time. Of course, many people will still wish to own or lease a vehicle or need to travel outside of the greater transport zone, and skids are not the right ongoing solution for this. As part of the development of the Level 6 vehicle control system, handover and control protocols will be developed that allow manufacturers to incorporate this functionality into new vehicles that are equipped with electronic control of steering and motion. Because of the impending requirement to develop new vehicles that are all electric and because manufacturers are already planning in some form of future autonomous control, it is probable that the vast majority of vehicles will be capable of being made Level 6 compatible with minimal additional costs. Initially, it is highly likely that not all of the manufacturers will wish to provide this capability or provide it fully across their ranges. Government incentives will probably be needed to ensure as a minimum that there is at least one option for each of the most common vehicle types. Over time, this problem will go away. Until the point at which all vehicles are equipped with Level 6 capable control, there will need to be some alternative method of access to the central area for larger vehicles. Moving goods into the central control zone with non-Level 6 compliant vehicles can be accommodated during the pilots with a combination of dedicated, repurposed supply lanes and potentially time windows of operation, i.e. unable to be accessed at peak times. Transponders can be required for trucks to provide real-time location, and other vehicles that do have Level 6 capabilities can be routed accordingly. For more specialist and one-off requirements, these vehicles could be escorted and again potentially required to travel within prescribed time windows. Local services with specialist vehicle requirements that have an ongoing use, but that are not initially Level 6 compliant, can be managed with appropriate route navigation instructions and location awareness. Over time, all vehicle types can be migrated to Level 6 compliance. With successful introduction of the pilots and their obvious visible benefits, a subsequent national rollout plan will be enough to encourage all vehicle manufacturers to become Level 6 compliant, even if they remain dual control for use outside of the central zone. Choice will still be available, but for many of those that do limited mileage and infrequent outside zone journeys, first-class public transport and the occasional hire car will seem preferable to the costs and hassle of car ownership. There are significant benefits to the wider economy from the money saved by spending less on new vehicles, the majority of which are currently imported. In terms of operating the road and vehicle system, there are many models that could be adopted and a greater or lesser level of direct involvement by the local authority possible. One option would be for the operator to be from the private sector under license to the local authority and governed with an appropriate operating agreement. The operator would manage all of the facilities and vehicle fleet, oversee central planning and maintain the appropriate interfaces with the customers and suppliers. The staff associated with road planning, maintenance and ongoing changes could remain local authority employed or be included within the operator. Given that the benefits associated with Level 6 system automation significantly exceed those from individual Level 5 fully autonomous vehicles, it does seem inevitable that Level 6 will happen over the course of time. The question is whether we can achieve that point faster by having a clear plan to do so instead of hoping industry might step in, which seems extremely unlikely unless orchestrated to do so, given the wide range of change required. Ironically, the technical complexity of Level 6 might be less than for Level 5 in terms of situational awareness and immediate directional calculations. No human drivers are in play, traffic rules and signage do not need to be interpreted, real-time data is gathered from all vehicles constantly and route calculations are undertaken centrally. The timescales are very uncertain, but with no one developing a central planning system or handover and control protocols, it seems likely to be several decades away at least. This could be accelerated by probably at least 20 years. So that's 20 years of the benefits previously outlined and global first-to-market competitive advantage. An overarching UK road transport strategy document published in 2019 contains a set of principles upon which a transport strategy can be tested. Level 6 automation aligns to all of these. The current government plan for autonomous and connected vehicles assumes a hybrid mix of autonomous and human driving, so therefore will not unlock the full benefits described, and it has no calculated expected outcomes, which is further troubling. In many ways it looks entirely focused on what the automotive sector wants, not what the population actually needs. There is no clear vision of the future. Under this approach, there is no likelihood that the market is going to come forward with the required products to deliver Level 6 anytime soon. In broad strokes, an outline plan to deliver a couple of pilot cities starts with the development of a set of requirements and the associated tendering and contract processes designed to engage industry in developing the components previously considered. There is then a need to select the right pilots and therefore engage with the public and local authorities to find a way of ensuring there is good local demand. Regulatory changes will be required to reflect the new road rules for the pilot areas and potentially to enable private operatorship. Handover and control protocols will need to be developed and manufacturers encouraged to adopt. 1- and 2-person vehicles and skids will need to be designed. Production facilities set up and the pilot vehicles manufactured. A relatively complex integrated planning system designed and developed. Changes to infrastructure for the pilots planned and executed and the whole system tested before operation. Funding in the order of £3 to £6 billion over an 8 to 10 year period is likely to be required but can be recouped over the longer term assuming the pilots are successful. If you have strong informed opinions regarding the estimated costs, timescales or indeed high-level activities in the outlined pilot plan, please add some comments. It is fair to say that the numbers are best guesses. However, given the relative size of the benefits, it is not expected that any additions will fundamentally alter the case for change. Longer-term investment should then be self-sustaining, in terms of manufacturing facilities, fleet vehicles and infrastructure. By applying some of the results from an autonomous vehicle study undertaken by Atkins, for full Level 5 automation, urban commute journey time savings of 31% have been calculated. Effectively, these savings come from an assumption of better driving. For Level 6 system automation, of 45% saving comes from a combination of better driving and a different road system that does not require stopping or queuing for other traffic. Journey time variability is responsible for a lot of waste due to the need to plan with contingency time included just in case. Today's journeys are potentially delayed due to congestion from lack of capacity or poor driving, traffic light stoppages and pedestrian crossings. Wide-scale adoption of Level 5 autonomous vehicles would reduce the potential delays caused by poor driving but still be prone to the other factors. Level 6 system automation would eliminate all potential delay factors except for those associated with on-demand pedestrian crossings, and is also highly predictable for any given day and time. It provides the ability for the user to be fully aware of the worst case and necessary departure time to ensure prompt arrival. Additional usable time can be calculated based upon the journey time savings previously discussed and the ability to undertake productive activities whilst in the vehicle during travel. Assuming the occupant has the necessary constitution and motivation to wish to work during the commute, the means to do this will depend on the technology required and whether it can be adequately accessed from the vehicle. There is no reason why Level 5 autonomous vehicles could not be fitted with the necessary technology to allow work on the move, however, it is not a certainty they will do so. Level 6 fleet vehicles will be capable of supporting current common technology formats required with an office or other knowledge-based role. In some cases, the usable time gained will be 100% of the previous journey time plus whatever contingency may have been planned into the departure time. Insurance industry estimates the average cost of motoring to be 54 pence per mile in 2023, with the bulk of the costs coming from fuel, vehicle purchase depreciation, insurance, repairs, servicing and road tax. Another approach to calculate this number is to use the total sector revenue divided by total UK mileage. Sector revenues are available from various industry watch sources, and the Department of Transport provides statistics on estimated total UK mileage. Using this method, the estimated cost per mile is 64 pence, the biggest differences being in vehicle depreciation and maintenance and repair. Using the sector revenue method and assuming energy cost and vehicle efficiencies based upon published data from seemingly credible sources, as government data is not available, the equivalent cost per mile for a Level 5 electric vehicle is 55 pence. The same approach used for a similar Level 6 enabled vehicle, which is estimated to be slightly more efficient because of improvements in traffic flows previously discussed, is 53 pence. The cost per mile of single-occupancy fleet vehicles have been calculated based upon the initial cost estimates for the pilot discussed in the previous video, some assumptions of vehicle life and operating costs for the infrastructure as well as fuel costs assuming significantly lighter vehicles. This works out to be approximately 11 pence per mile in the pilot and just 8 pence per mile assuming wide-scale adoption. Baseline information regarding motoring stress and the consequential impacts on health is not available. We can, however, consider some of the stress factors involved in motoring today and evaluate at a reasonably simplistic level the potential differences that might arise in either Level 5 or Level 6. Broadly, Level 5 autonomous vehicles improve the stress situation in some areas but do not fix issues associated with congestion and arrival uncertainty. What contribution these have to an overall level of stress is unknown. Level 6 seemingly alleviates all of the motoring stress factors considered. If significant numbers of privately owned vehicles were replaced with a Level 6 fleet, one of the very interesting side effects would be that parking requirements would be slashed. This would be on streets and driveways, places of business, shopping and leisure facilities. A very rough and probably conservative estimate is that there is about 229 square miles of concrete or tarmac set aside for parking in the UK today. For full implementation of Level 6 fleet, because of the smaller footprint, better parking density and ability to drop off and pick up, the parking requirements are only about 14 square miles, a saving of over 200 square miles. For comparison, Greater London is approximately 600 square miles. If we look at the breakdown of theoretical savings by land type and apply land value estimates published by Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, it is possible to get some extremely rough estimates of the potential value of the land no longer required. About £100 billion. No equivalent benefit arises from wide adoption of Level 5 autonomous vehicles. Using DVLA survey data on trips by purpose, and applying the estimated percentage journey time savings previously described, it is possible to calculate annual per person per trip time savings. A 2016 government commissioned study into the financial impacts of journey time savings arrived at a set of figures for hourly benefits for different travel purposes. Combining these two sets of data gives a theoretical time-saving benefit of £72 billion for fully adopted Level 5 autonomous vehicles and over £100 billion for Level 6. Time-saving benefits associated with the wide adoption of autonomous vehicles will likely bring tangential benefits across other business sectors. For Level 6 fleet vehicle users, the ability to rapidly transit first class from home to the town centre, at the cost of around 10 pence per mile, is thought likely to encourage more people to visit what are often declining commercial spaces today. In a similar manner, other small businesses that are located perhaps in places that are more difficult to get to or lacking in parking could also benefit. Both Level 5 autonomous vehicles and Level 6 system automation allows for the control of all sizes of vehicles. If we consider an autonomous vehicle about the same size as a long-wheelbase van, approximately 2 meters wide and 7 meters in length, this gives a maximum internal footprint of 14 square meters or 150 square feet. If the vehicle chassis is fitted with the necessary fluids tanks for toilet facilities, it could then be used as a flexible mobile workspace. This opens up the potential for a wide range of business uses where going to the customer is the preferable option or where costs are prohibitive. One of the barriers to getting a business started, especially in a services-related trade, is the cost of the premises required. If operated under a leasing system, and with extremely long-life vehicle chassis design, costs could be as low as 1/10 that of a traditional office space. If we make some fairly logical extrapolations, over perhaps slightly longer timescales, it's not difficult to imagine automated mobile rooms providing low-cost living space. With some clever engineering design, these could be docked together and provide the ability to grow as needed. Along similar lines, the same basic chassis design could provide a platform for budget mobile hotel room facilities, perhaps with options to spend the evening somewhere scenic or to move between facilities in different locations. This same principle could be applied to offices in project-based industries or research sectors where temporary face-to-face collaboration is required. Rather than co-locate with all the associated disruption, or spend time and effort traveling and booking meeting rooms, a much better option might be to bring the offices with their occupants together at a meeting hub equipped with appropriate docking facilities. Another longer timeframe benefit of the large-scale adoption of fleet vehicle use rather than personal car ownership is the potential for residential construction in place of driveways and garages. As we have seen previously, a lot of space is associated with vehicle parking, a large percentage of it directly at the front of houses. Given the housing challenges faced today, the projected population growth and the inadequate rate of new build housing, there are still likely to be significant gaps in housing in the future. It makes a lot of sense to utilize the space currently devoted to cars to use for humans instead. Rough estimates for what that might look like economically can be shown against a baseline 2% increase in fixed capital formation. Firstly, the cost of the infrastructure and fleet vehicles to support Level 6 automation is shown in orange. Changes to residential and commercial properties enabled by the fleet adoption is shown in blue. A major difference between Level 6 system control and both today or wide-scale adoption of Level 5 is that road spaces can be utilized for activities additional to transport purposes. This can be done quickly, precisely, and without the need to make even temporary changes to physical infrastructure such as bollards and signs. The balance of trade associated with import and export of cars and parts has been net negative for at least 10 years. Most recent data from 2023, slightly anomalous because of historical vehicle shortages created by the pandemic and chip shortages, shows a trade deficit of about £15 billion. During the time required to develop the city pilots and assuming 2% per year growth in both exports and imports, the trade gap opens to about £20 billion by 2032. At some point after this time, imports of new vehicles should start to decline as the system fleet rollout begins. The export of new vehicles should not be impacted, but demand for import vehicles will drop over time. First-to-market advantages and existing manufacturing facilities mean there is a strong potential for fleet exports. A current deficit of £15 billion can be turned into a perhaps an £80 billion surplus and completely reverse the long-term decline in UK car manufacture. As climate change really starts to bite, there is every possibility that mass evacuation might be required from urban areas. For Level 6 system automation, very rough calculations of city population and land size suggest that, with the exception of London, all other major UK cities could theoretically be evacuated in under 10 hours at a very modest average speed of 25 miles per hour. If this was increased to 40 miles per hour, all major UK cities could theoretically be evacuated in under 7 hours. It is unclear how long this exercise would take today, but as we covered in the first video, Even with a high degree of level 5 automation, gridlock could still occur. Urban road traffic accidents are responsible for over 600 deaths each year and for tens of thousands of injuries and resultant lost work time and NHS demands. Using some basic logic and results from early US autonomous vehicle trials, it is estimated that deaths and major injuries will be reduced by nearly half and minor injuries by 70% with level 5 autonomous vehicles. Level 6 is expected to reduce the deaths and major injuries by over 70% and minor injuries by 85%. In some circumstances, ambulance response times are critical to life or ongoing health conditions. Autonomous ambulances have the potential to reduce response times. There are several hypothesized levers to doing this. Firstly, there is no requirement for trained drivers and can be operated by one person if that was a current constraint. Under Level 6, ambulance arrival time can be exactly planned for at the hospital. Also under Level 6, other drivers and congestion will not delay the journey and conversely can be controlled along with pedestrian crossing to facilitate very rapid movement if required. There should be no route uncertainty for either Level 5 or Level 6. Although both scenarios reduce death and injury and therefore put less demand into the ambulance system, this is minor in comparison to the overall load. Bed availability for ambulance discharge will still remain an issue. Cars have a certain status association. If fleet vehicles are widely adopted, that will be somewhat neutralized. Level 6 fleet should be affordable to all. For many people that today use public transport as their main or only method of travel, especially when commuting, the time lost in comparison to those that can afford to drive is grossly unfair and hinders upward social mobility. For most of human history, communication was probably predominantly face-to-face and two-way. A series of technological developments, mainly in the last century, has dramatically altered this pattern. Compared to our ancestors, we spend a significant amount of time engaged in remote one-way communications, i.e. watching content, much of which is probably designed to sell or scam or otherwise change or reinforce our opinions. For better or worse, the trajectory appears to be an upwards trend of increased one-way communications. There are several factors that Level 6 fleet provides that would help enable more face-to-face communications, potentially altering the increasing one-way trend. Vehicles are often associated with crime, either directly or more likely indirectly as means of fleeing the crime scene. Level 6 has several factors that would be expected to reduce vehicle-enabled crime. There is the potential for central control to prevent quick and undetected scene escape if notified, and for better detection rates if the movement of all vehicles can be retrospectively established. In the unfortunate event of another pandemic, or just as prevention to the spread of disease, public transport in the form of a Level 6 vehicle fleet has significant advantages over buses in respect to being a possible transmission vector. There are a frightening number of health issues associated with breathing in small particulates in the air, termed PM10 and PM2.5 for their size in microns. There are tens of thousands of lives cut short, over 100,000 serious illnesses and millions of days lost each year due to respiratory issues associated with PM2.5. Not to mention the associated cost to the NHS. Studies have estimated that transport-related particles contribute about 12% of these figures. The breakdown of where the particles originate suggests a reasonably even split between brake dust, tire and road particulates and exhaust emissions. If we assume an electric or hydrogen drive system and less other particles are generated as a result of steadier driving, Level 5 is estimated to reduce PM2.5 emissions by 46%. Level 6 fleet will perform even more smoothly than Level 5 and with lighter vehicles generate less particles through mechanical abrasion. It is estimated to achieve about 60% total reduction against today. Applying these reduction rates, we can expect commensurate differences in the health outcomes previously considered for Level 5 and Level 6 automation. Ultimately, around 2,000 lives saved and up to 10,500 people not falling seriously ill each year due to the unfortunate side effects of road transport. Road transport accounts for a quarter of all carbon dioxide emissions in the UK today. Passenger cars make up about 60% of this number. If all cars and light goods vehicles were replaced with ones that were electric or hydrogen powered, this would result in a 54% reduction in road transport carbon emissions, or about 60 million tons. The residue emissions are from the primary energy source and reflect the current mix of renewables and hydrocarbons. If HGVs and buses were also fully electrified, this would reduce road transport carbon emissions by 68% or 76 million tons. Full Level 6 fleet, with more efficient vehicle flows and smaller sizes, should result in a 74% reduction in carbon emissions, or about 83 million tons. The total UK carbon dioxide emissions saved under these scenarios is up to 18% of the UK total. Many of the benefits are disproportionately higher for the least advantaged, something that makes this proposal particularly attractive.